This is not NBC. This is the Black Star Still Rising program. And this is CAN TV, Chicago, Channel 21. Welcome to Channel 21 CAN TV. Glad to have all you folks today. It's going to be a special program. I'm going to give you more information about our guests that you'll be introduced to in a few minutes. And also, I do my normal. I do the shout out to one, the studio producers, and that's Imani Payne and Rocio Santos. Thank you, Rocio and Imani. Wave your hands at me like you just don't care. Also have to give a shout out to the executive director of Channel 26, not Channel 26, of CAN TV. And that's Mr. Darius Hillman. Thank you, Mr. Hillman, for allowing organizations like the Black Star Project for having programs and the opportunity to reach out to our studio audience. I want to also thank my producers. Associate producer, that's Dr. Mike Washington. I was starting to say the wrong word, Washington, but also to our other producer, Ellis Taylor, who makes things happen, all of us. Got a different shout out today, a special shout out to Sunrise Facility in Milwaukee. And I want to shout out to my daughter, who is a resident at the Sunrise Facility in Milwaukee, and also to Laura and the staff there. If Sunrise was a restaurant, it would be getting 5 stars from Michelin. That's how great a facility it is. Thank you guys at Sunrise. Wave your hand so we can see you on TV. Gabby, raise your hand. Love you, darling. Going to get into my great guest, a very special person that I've known for decades now, it seems, even though he's a much younger fellow than me.
Oh, yeah.
But I've known him for quite a while. But let me tell you just a little bit about him. A little bit. Oh, Pierre, you forgot to tell me. Did I shout out to, I didn't shout out to Gloria Smith, the executive producer of the Black Star Project. I didn't give homage to Philip Jackson, the founder of the Black Star Project. Hey, don't let me forget anymore. I'm not going to forget it again, but thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. My guest, Pierre Clark. Tell this much about him. He's a serial entrepreneur. I got that right.
You did.
Serial entrepreneur. Photojournalist.
Yes.
Photojournalist.
For a while.
For a while, anyway.
Not now, but for a long time.
That's right. I'm going to give a little background.
I got
right?
you.
You know, he had great training at both Harvard and the University of Chicago. He's a homeboy at Holy Angels Grammar School and St. Ignatius College Prep.
Right up the street.
He's got credentials for being on this program and doing all the things that he has done over the years. Pierre, thank you for being my guest today.
No problem, brother, anytime.
Okay. Got to get him saying, he's been so experienced over the years since I met him probably as, you might have been a senior at St. Ignatius when I first met you.
I was.
And you probably have seniors in high schools now yourself.
Well, I got one that's 21, yes.
Okay, you've been around for a while, and the things that you've been doing, here's the problem. It's so much to say in so little time. So we're going to move fairly fast. We're going to hit some of the high points. And the thing that you're going to know is I'm whetting your appetite with Pierre today. I'm just going to whet your appetite because we can't cover everything. But there'll be some things that we want to get back to. Can I have you back again now? Can I say that right now? I want you back again.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
For you.
I was hoping that you would agree with me that you'd be back in the program and some of the things that we have not covered completely today. You've been working with the Black Star Project for how long?
Well, actually, over 20 years off and on because, Philip started the organization 27 years ago this year. And, my sister was a key part of the organization when I was just, coming in knowing Philip and knowing what he was doing in the community. He was one of us,
You were just a shorty then?
Well,
not quite a shorty.
No, yeah. Well, no, my sister was a little bit older than me. But, you know, I knew Philip from the very beginning, knew him before he started the Black Star Project. But then when he decided to go to work with the city and be chief of staff and do all those things, and decided that he needed to come out in the community and do what he saw that needed to be done for the youth of the city, you know, I was there, part of that, as many of us were. And so we sort of worked with him off and on in our own right as he did the educational piece and became very well known and famous for that.
And he mentored you like you are mentoring in some of the programs for the Black Star Project.
Well, his thing was education, and he was for the youth. And so, you know, we did community development, we did those things, and he did the activism in the schools, you know, the daddy-daughter dance, the Million Father March, all the things he was famous for doing. And so, you know, he sort of led the way in that space, and we worked in the spaces that we all worked in, which was activism for the community, activism for doing things to help the community grow, start businesses, get jobs, and those kind of things. So, you know, I would say that we were colleagues, and I would say that we were also partners in the community development.
That's how he rolled.
Yes.
He made collaborators out of the folks he identified who had integrity, who had something to offer. You brought journalism and can I say photojournalistic approach to supporting the Bronzeville community and beyond the Bronzeville community. Can you talk about some of the things how you, as a journalist by training, support the community and still support the community?
Well, let me say that, and I would be remiss if I just, you know, talked about that part of my life, which was very important. You know, I did photography, freelance photography, journalism, wrote columns, and did all that for a long time. But my emphasis was always community development in terms of how we looked at journalism and how we looked at photography as a tool to help get the word out, help get the messages out. You know, I worked in that field because I'm creative at heart. And then, you know, expanded in that way to community development. We did nonprofit development. We did, real estate development for a time. We did technology for a very long time, technology access. In fact, the stuff that we did in photography really led to us working in the technology space.
Well, let me interject, because I want to keep you moving, because you're going to whet their appetite, and they're going to call in. People are either going to call me and want to find out additional things from you. We're going to talk about one of the critical things in preparing for this program. You talked about self-determination.
Right.
You talked about self-determination. We're going to cover that actually next week in our Kwanza, pre-Kwanza program next Tuesday also. But talk about self-determination, especially as a principle of Kwanza.
Well, I think that, of course, there are 7 principles of Kwanza, and I can never remember them all.
Don't worry about it, because we're going to cover it next week.
Okay.
All right.
But, you know, one of the things that Kwanza is very much emphatic about is, you know, cooperative economics. You know, the community doing its own thing, being able to determine its own destiny with starting businesses, being able to employ its own people. So I think that when we look at self-determination, I think that's something that we have a critical need to focus on, just because of our history, the history of slavery, history of how we came to this country, how we have tried to exist in this country for 400 or 500 years. And I think that self-determination is really the next frontier that we have to have in our own right to determine our own destiny and understand that nobody's going to do that for us.
Well, that delves right into one of the things I know you're most concerned with, and that's entrepreneurship. Talk about entrepreneurship in the Bronzeville neighborhood and Chicago's neighborhoods.
Well, I believe very much in entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, for most of my working life. You know, we talked about photography. I started as a freelancer and then moved into technology, moved into, you know, community development, nonprofit development.
Don't slip away from those things too fast. I want a little bit of background about each one of those.
Okay, well, again, you know, those things I always approach from an entrepreneurial perspective. I never wanted to work for anybody, even when I went to college. You know, when we started as a photographer, we had a roommate, and he was a photographer in Baltimore, and we sort of got really interested in photography. And right from the start, we looked at producing and promoting our own work. You know, we never.
Did you work about making a little money?
Yeah, well,
Get a little cash,
cash, you know,
paying
because
your
again,
tuition,
that's
room and board.
well, you know, fortunately we didn't have to do that, but all the other stuff that goes into college. You know, when you're in college, it's not just tuition. You know, you have to buy books, you have to eat, you have to take care of yourself in terms of your own personal needs. And so, you know, a lot of kids did work study. You know, we did photography. So those were the things that we started doing. And because we were, you know, we got good at it, and very early we did some things that got some recognition. We were able to continue to do that. When I came back to Chicago, I worked for most of the newspapers. You probably know Dorothy Lavelle. You know a lot of people.
Dorothy Lavelle, that's a Crusader.
Yes, I was a columnist for her for many years. Very good friend of mine. Her and John Smith, her husband.
They had a mission, and you became part of that mission.
I was part of that, but I also worked for a Defender, and I worked for the Sun Times.
Can I raise my hand too?
Hey, listen. Oh,
Defender
yes.
too? You know my years as a Defender?
Yeah.
All right.
So, you know, and not to get into that history because there's a lot of it, but, you know, we have the offshore Defender right next door to us at Black Star with the Bronzeville Life, which is run by the granddaughter, I think, or the great-granddaughter of Robert Singstack, I think is what she is. And so we did a lot of work with them, a lot of freelance work.
Whole Singstack family, yeah.
Yeah, whole Singstack family. Bobby, Robert, you know, Bobby Singstack, he was a photographer himself, along with I guess Brian Jackson was there. I mean, there were a lot of us that did freelance work. But the Defender was a daily paper. A lot of people don't remember that it was an everyday paper.
I sold it, so I knew.
Yes, yeah. So
I sold the Defender on the weekend.
Okay.
So that was when it was just a weekly, but it became.
Yeah, and it became a weekly, but it was a daily for many years.
Yes.
And so, you know, that really gave a lot of impetus for those of us who wanted to be communicators, wanted to shoot pictures. I went on and started my own newspaper, several of them, you know, that were community newspapers. And so, you know, we did a lot of that kind of work because we were trying to make sure that we got the message out, have our own voice, have our own communications tool. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. I still do photography.
Well, let me get you into some other fun things that you do and that you enjoy doing. One of them is grant writing. You do grant writing for a number of nonprofit organizations.
I do.
Can you share with our audience some of either the process or the importance of grant writing in putting it together so that it fits these nonprofits that you work with?
Well, you had a guest on last week who I do work for. In fact, I'm working for him right now as we speak. You had John Adams on here last week.
Go ahead.
And John is the founder of the Bronzeville Trail Task Force, and I do grant writing for the organization. You know, and grant writing, of course, is the lifeblood of any organization in terms of getting money.
Did you help him get that $900,000?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't want to responsible?
I wasn't responsible for that one. No, you can't give me that credit. But that's a great grant that they did get and win, and they were very, you know, it was very much a big win that the Bronzeville Trail Task Force got that. And there's a lot of other grants that they need as well as that, and I'm helping to do those.
With your background especially, you know where that leads me to? I got a thing to ask you about, and it deals with the creativity of writing. I want to talk about, because I know you got a lot of information and background about one of these things I'm going to talk about. That's AI. And I'll ask you this question. How much does AI affect a creative person like you?
Well, AI is going to be the most important skill and tool and discipline that you can learn if you're creative, because everything is going in that direction. AI has completely upended the creative process, not only with the capabilities that it gives you to do things, but also, you know, the speed and the productivity and the accuracy. And I don't lie, you know, I use AI a lot. I use it every day.
Okay, let me stop you there. Well, with the AI, what's the term? Algorithms, etc., that they use.
Algorithms.
Algorithms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, somebody creative has to prepare the algorithms, right?
Yes, sir.
So that there's room for even the most least creative of us to find a way to create And I believe, and I know the importance of that, but I believe there will always be room for creators like you, creators like me.
There's no question about it. I think that people who think that AI will eliminate jobs are really short-sighted, and eliminate careers are really short-sighted. It's going to, some kinds of things that you do in writing, some of the front-end work of being a creative, in terms of writing, photography, video, whatever, yes, those things will now be done with AI tools. But there will never be a time when a creative is not at the forefront of that, and it's going to expand the possibilities so much that anybody that really learns that stuff is going to make a boatload of money.
Stop talking about that. Talk about that learning process.
Well,
how does a person prepare themselves for supplementing their creativity with AI?
Well, AI, there's I wouldn't call it a code, but I'd call it a literary pattern that you use to ask AI to do things that you want done. Say you want to look up something that requires a lot of research. You can, program AI with language to do that lookup for you. What that saves you is time. It gives you a lot to work with, and it cuts out a lot of that front work. So then what you can do from there is really be more creative and expansive with the more difficult and the more time-consuming aspects of writing, whether it's a grant you're writing, whether it's a book you're writing, whether it's a magazine article, what it is. So basically, again, I think when people look at AI, I think they don't really understand how much that tool and that discipline is going to create opportunities for people in the next 10 or 15 years. And the other piece of it is, if you don't know how to do that, you won't work at all.
It's going to be a shame if you don't. So tell me what you've experienced. What's been the biggest influence of AI as you see it evolving? It's going to impact you. Is it the research? Is doing the tedious kinds of things?
I would think that's the real benefit of understanding and knowing how to use AI. We got used to using Google. We got used to doing search online, but this is way more than that. I mean,
What's the difference?
Well,
I did things on
Google. Search is just if you know what you're looking for and you type in some keywords, you can find it. AI has an interpretive quality to it as well. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what you're looking for, but you can give it hints, and it can take those hints and find things that you didn't even realize you were looking for. And I've done that a lot. A lot of things that I come up with when I use AI tools like Perplexity or like ChatGPT, I'm amazed myself.
You talk about some of these terms and nobody's heard about it yet.
Well, those are the popular terms. And so when I, use those tools, I'm shocked myself at what it comes up with. And so I think that any of the youth that are looking for what the future can be and the things that you can learn that give you an edge out here, I certainly think AI and AI tools fit right into that.
You better use that edge when you can identify it and use it.
I'm big on that.
I got a kind of a curveball to throw at you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a curveball that you can't hit. But I remember you talking about, and this is how I think you got it. How can the GNP of $1 trillion be worth no more than $1? Was that you that shared that with me?
Well, I think that, if you look at the report, The Color of Wealth, that came out recently with the Chicago Community Trust, and they did that report analyzing the economic position of black people in the city versus white people versus Asians, Hispanics, you'll find that they concluded that our net worth as a people, median net worth, is $0.
Well, let me stop you right here just for a second. This is the segment of our program every year that we have people like you, people who have either broad understanding, etc., can put 2 and 2 together to make 4. The being able to project these things and to be able to see these things, you have the ability to break it down to the average person who is watching a program like this. Break some of these things down that my grandma, if she was around, could understand, what my grandchild could understand. Break it down to them.
Well, I think, from the days that grandmas did rent parties to pay the rent, when they started
You
candy
know about
stores,
those?
of course, started the candy stores to, make extra money and those kind of things. We know the value of being able to sell dinners to make extra money. It's not just a job. You got to have more than one source of income. And so when you hear a thing like, we don't have we have a net worth of zero, that means we're not leveraging the skills and the ability and the money that we have in order to build other kinds of enterprises, other kinds of entrepreneurial pastimes that help us build wealth. That translates directly into lack of home ownership that we have.
Okay,
it translates
keep
directly
break it down.
into,
How we do it.
lack of businesses that we have. Everybody complain about, the Arabs that, open up business in our community, the Asians and all of that. Well, it's just like the late Robin Wright said in Do the Right Thing that Spike Lee created. When they talked about the store that the Arab guy owned, he said, "Hey, you could have bought that store too. You could have opened that store. You didn't do that."
Or Dunkin' Donuts or gas station now, or what else?
Any of those things. And so what you are seeing now is a realization that if it is to be, it's up to me, and we have to do.
Oh, that
for
sounds like
ourselves.
something you should coin.
Well,
If
not
it's-
me.
if I can do it,
Robert
it's
Schuller
up to
said
me.
that. If it is to be, it's up to me. And a dream. Now this one I created. A
Give it
dream
to
without
me.
a plan is just a fantasy. I've been saying that since 1991.
You can't be just dreaming about something.
No,
you got
you
to execute.
Absolutely.
We got to what else? Plan.
Well, you got to plan and you got to execute, and we got to teach our kids to do that.
Do it very early?
I would say as early as you can. I mean, I've got my own children doing Shopify and doing some of these kinds of
You said
tools.
Shopify.
Shopify is an online
Can I scratch
e-commerce.
my head?
Yeah,
What is Shopify?
Well, Shopify is an online e-commerce system that allows you to find products and sell them to others online. And it's easy to get a little online store and try to bring products together and make money. The kids can do that. They don't have to be, technological geniuses to do that. You see a lot of the things that we are doing now in terms of our community where we have these pop-up businesses, we have these bazaars where, entrepreneurs set up tables. All of that is all a part of us generating wealth so that we can not be worth zero. We can be worth more than that.
Let me ask you something that's particular to that. This past summer, I've noticed along Jeffrey Boulevard from about 76 until the 80s that I've saw a lot of people having ice, what they call them, slushies or ice.
Absolutely.
Ice on their front lawn.
On their front lawn.
The Jeffrey bus passes by and they see these folks. Is that an example? What does somebody like that have to do besides buy this material?
Just buy the material and sell it.
Okay.
That's a very good example. Each year we have the Bud Billiken Parade, the second Saturday in August, okay? And if you were living on 35th Street or you in Bronzeville, you know about that parade. It's about 95 years old, I think, that, we've had that every year since.
I've marched in it before.
I'm sure
Yes.
many people. One of the largest parades in the country, if not the largest in the African American community.
I think it is.
One of the things that is very prominent about that parade is the fact that all along the parade route you see people selling barbecue, selling hot dogs, selling slushies, popping corn and selling that. That's an example of the homegrown type of entrepreneurship that we need to encourage and keep encouraging because, food never goes out of style. If you can sell, as my friend Paula Robinson would say, if you can sell a good sandwich, you can make money. She said her grandmother told her that, and that she's always been looking for that, how does she put it, that money sandwich, that sandwich that they can sell to make money anytime, any place. We all need that. We all need that kind of thing that can be a moneymaker for us so that we don't have to depend on a job all the time.
Well, let me say, there's an analogy that I like. You've heard the term the butterfly effect?
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, the butterfly effect says, in essence, if a butterfly flaps its wings here in Chicago, the effect becomes a tornado
Absolutely.
in the Great Plains.
That's absolutely.
That exponential effect of doing the small things. Talk about that and how you've seen that yourself.
Well, my understanding is that there's an actual physical correlation between movement in one sector and the effect, the cause and effect in the other. And so I think that when you demonstrate the ideas that we can do our own, be on our own, have our own, create our own. I always look at my friend Toure Muhammad. I know you probably know Brother Toure. And Toure has Black Chicago Eats. He started that website with 65 restaurants listed. Now it's over 600. In
That's
just 2-3 years.
exponential effect.
Exponential effect.
Okay.
And he decided from that list to do a taste of Black Chicago 3 years ago on 75th Street. And when he did that, 5,000 people showed up to be at the,
Did you say 5,000?
No, more than that. I'm sure it was more than that. To take samples of the different food, vegan restaurants that people had never heard of
like
before.
Soul Vegetarian.
Soul Veg and all of
yes.
that. And they all came to this place. He had it at the Temple at 75th or 74th, 75th and Stony, had it in the parking lot. 5,000 people showed up. Okay, that's an example of entrepreneurship in action, because all those people ran their own businesses, their own stores, their own restaurants, and they all came together in one spot, and the community came out and supported that.
That sounds like Harold's to me. Harold's from my generation, if you can call it that.
Well,
how many Harold stores, and they're even in Vegas now.
Well, yes, they are.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if the family still owns the original brand, but I think some of the relatives still have stores. But I think that's a great example. You know, people made cakes. They cooked food out of their homes. They fed people, you know, from their houses, from the kitchen. And then they took that and expanded into a restaurant, expanded into a bakery shop. You know, my own mother worked with a guy named Ray Hinton, who had the counter at Alco.
Okay.
You know, back in the 60s. And they had the lunch counter. And he owned the right to do that cooking there. He expanded that into restaurants and hotels. And his son became an entrepreneur, Greg Hinton, and the Hinton family.
Now, here's what we got to do in 30 seconds. You have to leave our viewers some special thing you want to leave them with, or let them know what you're going to be talking about later on.
Well, I just want you to understand that, you know, again, I think the two phrases that I would put out: if it is to be, it's up to me, and a dream without a plan is just a fantasy. So don't look for somebody else to be your savior. Make yourself your own savior. You know, be your own boss. Be your own entrepreneur. Those are the things that I think are very key if we're going to have any chance of really being growing and taking over the community and being the type of people that we want to be. I think that's where we have to take charge and create our own destiny. That's what self-determination is all about.
Pierre, it's been a pleasure to have you here. It wouldn't hard for me to imagine 40, 50 years ago when you were at St. Ignatius, that here you would be on TV and I'd be interviewing you about these important things in life that you are carrying on.
Well, you never know where life is going to take you. You
Tell
know.
them, Mr. Rat. Wave at the folks. Sunrise, folks at Sunrise, glad to have you with us. See you next week.